Hi Sagittarius, welcome to your September 2019 love reading. It's Raina here. So this month I'm going to be combining readings for people who are single as well as in a committed partnership. Speaking of a committed partnership, you have the Soulmate card. Oops. Well, that doesn't happen every day. Putting those two cards there. Okay, so the it's interesting because what I've been doing is mentioning some of the transits that are occurring that connect to the love houses, the 5th and the 7th houses. 7th house is the committed sector, marriage. The 5th house is falling in love, but it can, indicate the amount of love in your committed relationship too, maybe, or how you're expressing it. So the 7th house is pretty quiet right now, but the 5th house does have. It's not necessarily in September. There will be a full moon in this 5th house in October. So that could bring something, like a heightened awareness to this relationship. Something could come to a head. You may find out something about this person that you didn't know. Sometimes this can lead to the pressure. And I don't mean it in a bad way, that you want to commit, take it to the next level, because maybe one person or both come to it simultaneously that you decide that you don't want to date other people. But anyway, that's getting ahead of ourselves. Chiron is in Aries. I don't know how long it's been. I think since April or May. I don't know. But anyway, that's the 5th house. So it's transiting the 5th house. This can bring an awareness for Sag about some of the wounds that are connected to love. Now, this can run the gamut. It's funny, now that I think about it, and I'm thinking about this in terms of my solar 5th, because I'm thinking about my sun sign being in Sag, and being with a partner for many years. Like 37, a real long time, And just the other day, feeling that kind of tenderness, and it's like how odd it is. It doesn't matter how long you're with somebody, that you can still be vulnerable to certain things that are really coming from within yourself. It's like kind of a primordial pain. And that other person is not, sometimes that other person is a catalyst, but a lot of times they're just what you're projecting what's inside of you onto, and thinking that they are triggering something in you when really it might be reminding you of something, but you're bringing it out from yourself. But for some people, the issue of love itself, if love has been painful in your life, and now you have this transit of Chiron in the 5th, it can really kind of highlight that. But the thing is, as you probably know, Chiron is the wounded healer. So when a person fully understands what is going on, they are capable of healing themselves, especially when they attempt to help other people go, guide them through the same thing, because they have been there and done that. So it's actually a very beautiful thing, but it can feel very tender. It can feel very, I don't know. I don't know if anybody has been experiencing this transit in that way, but I just wanted to bring that up. And actually, now that I think about that, when we have, and the twin flames, sorry about that, the twin flames situation too, because this card is actually a soulmates card, 6 of Cups. But, you know, we might wonder, like, you know, is it a soulmate situation or is it twin flames? This is the heart of the matter. And so in September, some Sagittarians have the idea of soulmate first and foremost on their mind when it comes to their romantic endeavors. And if you're single, it could simply be that you're like, when is this person going to come into my life? I'm willing this person into my life, universe. Or you meet somebody who you think could be the one. Come to think of it, I mean, even somebody who is coupled may meet somebody who feels very familiar, like they are the one. But whether it's somebody new or somebody from the past, it's important not to lose your head. It's important to keep your cool. Sometimes, you know, the Six of Cups can be the past, the idyllic past, you know, hooking up with, and I don't mean, you know, hooking up, but just getting back in touch with somebody, your high school sweetheart. Maybe you haven't talked to them in 20 years, and somehow, some way, it happened with the magic of Facebook or what have you. And you're like, oh my God, I've never really gotten over this relationship. And that, to me, could be Chiron in the 5th too, transiting the 5th. Because it's like this, you know, when somebody has their first love, or especially their first serious love, and something, you know, prevents them from staying with that person, they may go on with their life, but they might never, ever forget how they felt. And it stays with them, and they perhaps hold a burning torch for that person. In the past position, we have the 10 of Wands. This is almost like an uphill battle. Carrying the weight of something, carrying a burden, Sag. Now, the burden could be simply that you know the truth about your feelings for somebody. And like I said, maybe you and this person went your separate ways. You both got married, you both had kids, maybe you moved thousands of miles away, but it has felt like an uphill battle to really let go of that dream, that memory that felt so right. If you're single, you may feel like it's a struggle to find a person who even barely resembles somebody who could be like your true mate. You know, forget about the soul part, but just somebody that you feel is the right one for you. Or an appropriate partner. 2 cards came out at the same time. These are the higher message cards. One is the Queen of Wands. And I think that this card means if you're single and you feel like it's a struggle to remain optimistic, keep your sunny disposition. This card is actually connected to Sagittarius. I always say Leo because of the sunflower, but fire energy. Fire energy is supposed to be optimistic. And you notice too that this is fire energy. It's wands. Also, too, one thing I have to say about the 10 of Wands, regardless if you're single or coupled, this can be a card of overtime work, working very hard, and that can negatively impact your love life. Either you don't have time to date, or if you're married, it can adversely affect your marriage. You don't have enough time to spend with your partner. So keep that in mind. I mean, even if you have the best relationship in the world, you have to be able to invest in that relationship. You can't just take it for granted and assume that it's going to just be okay on its own. What's the point of getting together with another person if you're not going to really share your life with them and have that time for them? And for them to have that time with you. Because maybe that it goes both ways, obviously. So the other spiritual message card I got was the Ace of Swords. Cutting through the illusion to the truth. And I think it means, too, gaining clarity about where you're at. If you're coupled and you know this is not the right person for you, this person may be a good person. Maybe you're not being treated badly. It's easy when you're being treated disrespectfully to think about leaving. But just like in Eat, Love, Pray, you know, what's her name? Elizabeth Gilbert? No, is her name? Elizabeth Gilbert. That doesn't sound right. But you know who I'm talking about, the writer. She was agonizing over that decision because she felt like this person that was her husband was a good man, but she knew that he wasn't the right one. Everything looked great on the surface, but it wasn't the right person. And so she would, every night she'd go into her bathroom and cry because she couldn't figure out how to get out. And they had gotten to the point in their relationship that he wanted children, and she just knew. That was when it really came to a fever pitch for her, because she knew she didn't want to bring a child into the world, into this loveless marriage, at least loveless on her part. And so she had to leave. And what a great book that is. So seeing what is actually going on in your life. If you're single and you really want this kind of soulmate type of relationship, you have to get clear. You have to gain clarity on what exactly you need. Sagittarians, you know, me being one myself, we need freedom. You know, we cannot be with somebody who is breathing down our necks all the time, who's, you know, expecting us to be attached to the hip with them. Fire signs in general, are very independent. And we like to be kind of free agents. That doesn't mean that we want to be unfaithful to our partner, but we certainly want that sense of autonomy, even within a relationship. And interestingly, the card that crosses you is, to me, a card that I would associate with Sagittarius. I don't know if this has a particular astrological connection. I'm sure it does. I'm sure all the cards do. But the Three of Wands, here's more wands, that sense of wider pastures, expansion. And yet it's in the challenge position. So something is keeping you from that. Perhaps it's this person you're with, if you are coupled, that you don't feel like you can be who you are. If you're single, you may be kind of afraid to even look for a relationship, because relationships have come to represent pain to you. You know, either you've had relationship failures in the past that have scared you off of them altogether, or you just associate them with losing your sense of freedom. And it doesn't have to be that way. But again, you know, going back to the Ace of Swords, you have to know yourself. And knowing yourself means that you know what you want and you know what you don't want. Then I get another card that's almost like that. What's coming in is the Queen of Swords. I always see this card now as somebody who has to make a decision. And they have to, it's almost like you have to steel yourself and not allow your emotions to cloud your judgment. But you still, it's not like you're being this heartless SOB, you know. You're being compassionate. But you're being compassionate to yourself and that other person. Because, you know, if you're involved with somebody and let's say they are a good person, but you know that they're not the right one, is it compassionate to stay with them, harboring these secret feelings for somebody else? Is that really compassionate? I don't think so. I think that you can really go in the right direction by looking at a situation dispassionately, where you're not, you know, being overly sentimental, and also having compassion for the other individual and what is best for them ultimately, even though it may be a little bit messy. If you're single, this may mean that you have, if you do not have a person in mind, that you really are practical, I think, too, about it. Well, that's kind of what I mean when even though it's not really, the word practical really isn't the appropriate word, but logical is probably a better word, about what is really important to you. Some of the things that people are attracted to are things that either are superficial, like, oh, the way that they look is really pretty superficial. I understand that that's a point of attraction, but that's not something that's going to cement a relationship. And also intellectual rapport. I mean, that's what the swords represent, is the intellect and communication. And that's very important for Sag, because we are intellectuals. And we need somebody that we can relate to on a mental level too. And so it takes a lot of attention to detail when you meet someone. Now, here I am talking about something that sounds very unromantic, but soulmate means that you're partnering with somebody at the deepest level. And so being very thoughtful, intentional about it certainly makes sense to me. And the outcome for all is the Hermit card. So this is a card of solitude. Maybe everyone who's a Sag, who's looking for love, needs to take some time out for themselves to truly contemplate these things. If you are married, maybe it means that you need to separate, depending on other circumstances. Obviously, this is not a one-size-fits-all situation, but there may be some people who are married or living with their partner where it's going to be very hard to do the kind of deep thinking that you need to do in the same space as that other person. For people who are single, maybe you've been trying too hard. Maybe that's what the Ten of Wands is about. Somebody who is putting too much effort into something and getting little in return. And maybe it's time to dive deep into yourself and really seek that inner light to guide you, to tell you, you know, how to proceed. Again, soulmate. It's funny, the soul, the soul part in soulmate, you know, the 12th house, that's the house of the monk or the hermit. And that's what solitude is all about. Not listening to the world. You know, finding that still small voice within you and letting it guide you instead of your outward desires or the opinions of other people. Okay, that's what I have for you, Sag. I hope that you got something positive from this. If you'd like a private reading, the link is below. Take care. Bye.